Somewhere in your home, there is a bag, a watch, or a pair of shoes you cannot quite bring yourself to look at anymore. You saved for it, you were proud of it, and sometime in the last year that pride quietly turned into something closer to regret. You are not the only one feeling it. Across America right now, the wealthiest shoppers in the country are doing something nobody predicted. They are walking away from the exact labels they spent 2 decades chasing, and the reason has almost nothing to do with taste.
I am Michelle Lane, but you know me from that channel as the cartoon-style character Money Mitch. Let me say one thing before we continue, and then I will not bring it up again. I have gathered all my knowledge in a book on my website. If you want it, it is there, just in the description below. That is all. Now let's continue.
By the end of this, I will give you the 4 questions they started asking before any purchase. And the 4th one is the one that changes everything. Let me show you the number that started this conversation. Research on affluent and high net worth buyers found that 1/5 of them intend to spend less on designer fashion over the coming year. That alone would be a footnote. The trend underneath it is the story. Back in 2019, only 15% of wealthy buyers went an entire year without purchasing a single piece of designer fashion. That figure has climbed to 25%. For leather goods, the share buying nothing at all rose from 23% to 31%. For watches, 44% are sitting the year out entirely. These are not people who lost their money. These are people who kept their money and changed their minds. You can see the same story in the earnings reports. The largest luxury group on the planet watched its fashion and leather goods division fall 9% in a single year, in the category generating more than 2/3 of its profit. The money did not disappear. The behavior changed. There are 6 forces driving this, and every one has a lesson attached that applies whether you have $11,000 in a brokerage account or $1,100. Number 1, the price stopped matching the product. In 2010, a medium classic flat bag from one famous house retailed for $2,850. Expensive, but reachable for someone who saved deliberately for a year. That same bag now retails for about $11,700, a 310% increase across 16 years. Run the compounding and the bag appreciated at roughly 9% a year, every year, for 16 straight years. A handbag outpaced the average return of the entire United States stock market across that stretch. Not because the object got better. The leather did not improve. The stitching stayed where it had always been. What moved was the number on the tag. And it is not an outlier. Between 2023 and 2025, roughly 80% of all growth in the luxury market came from price increases rather than from selling more items. Read that again. 4 out of every $5 of growth in one of the world's most profitable industries came from charging existing customers more, not from earning new ones. There is a name for a business model that grows only by raising prices on a shrinking group of loyal buyers. It is called harvesting, and harvesting works right up until the moment your best customers do the math. Picture someone who had wanted that bag since she was 23. This spring, the cash was finally in hand, saved deliberately across 4 years. She stood at the counter, asked what the bag had cost in 2010, heard the answer, and walked out without buying anything. Not because she could not afford it, because she suddenly understood she was not paying for craftsmanship. She was paying for a pricing strategy. That money did not vanish. She moved it into a high-yield savings account paying around 4%. Left alone for 10 years, it grows to roughly $17,000. She earns more than $5,000 for doing absolutely nothing except leaving it where it is. Meanwhile, the national average savings rate across all American banks sits at under 0.5%. Same dollars, wildly different outcome, decided entirely by which building she put them in. Number 2. The middle of the market got pushed out and nobody replaced them. For roughly 30 years, luxury ran on a specific engine. A small number of extremely wealthy clients bought the expensive things, and an enormous number of ordinary people with decent incomes bought the entry-level things. A wallet, a belt, a small crossbody bag. Those aspirational buyers were the volume, and the volume paid for the stores and the advertising. That engine has broken, Wealthy buyers now account for close to half of all personal luxury spending worldwide. In 2019, that same group represented 30%. It did not grow because rich people started buying more. It grew because everyone else stopped. You can see why without reading a single research report. Total American household debt has reached $18.8 trillion. When fuel and groceries absorb the flexible portion of a paycheck, the flexible portion is gone, and the discretionary purchase never gets considered at all. The brands noticed years ago. Their response was to abandon the middle and chase the top, which is why prices kept climbing while store traffic kept falling. Here is the uncomfortable part. When a company decides its future depends on its wealthiest clients, everyone below that line stops being a customer and becomes a source of margin. The prices are not calibrated to what you can comfortably pay. They are calibrated to what the wealthiest buyer will tolerate, and you are simply invited to stretch. Number 3. The signal broke. A luxury logo works as a signal for exactly one reason. Not everyone has it. The monogram communicates something because the person seeing it knows what it costs. Scarcity creates meaning, and meaning creates desire. Then the logo became ordinary. Payment plans made a $4,000 bag look like 4 monthly installments. Resale platforms flooded the market with authentic pieces at half the price. Counterfeits improved past the point where anyone can tell at 10 feet. Social media filled with hundreds of thousands of creators carrying the same 3 bags. Carrying a designer logo now signals participation rather than distinction. That is a very different message than the one the buyer thought they were sending. And wealthy consumers noticed first because they were the ones losing the signal. Affluent buyers moved toward pieces with no visible branding at all, recognizable only to people who already know what they are looking at. And there are already signs of fatigue with quiet luxury itself, which tells you something about the whole game. The aesthetic keeps changing because the aesthetic was never the point. The point was staying one step ahead of whatever the crowd adopted, and that is a race with no finish line and a continuous entry fee. Consider a man who spent 9 years buying a specific brand of watch, one every 18 months, because the watches announced a certain kind of professional arrival. Then he took a job at a firm where 3 of the 4 senior partners wore watches costing under $400, and none of them noticed his. The signal he had spent roughly $30,000 building did not register in the room he had built it for. Whatever you are buying to be seen, someone in the room you are trying to enter has already stopped looking. Number 4. The wealthy move their money toward things that pay them back. This is the shift that separates a spending trend from a wealth strategy. Spending on luxury experiences has consistently outpaced spending on luxury goods, and the goods they still buy have narrowed toward the pieces that hold or increase value. Resale data supports it. A handful of the most supply-controlled handbag models have appreciated well over 100%, and investment-grade leather goods recover more than 70% of original retail. But that phrase, investment grade, is doing enormous work. It describes a narrow slice of pieces from a handful of houses, in neutral colors, in excellent condition. Outside that slice, recovery rates drop hard, and a bright seasonal color from a mid-tier label routinely returns a fraction of what was paid. Wealthy buyers understood this first because they were sitting on collections large enough to test it. A trend-driven piece in an unusual color loses value the moment the trend cools. A neutral classic from a house with strict supply control holds. So they stopped buying the first category almost entirely, which looks like restraint from the outside and functions like portfolio management from the inside. Notice what else sits in the data. Watches and jewelry grew, while fashion and leather goods fell. The categories that get passed down are still moving. The categories that get carried, photographed, and replaced are stalling. Buyers are drawing a line between an object that lasts and an object that performs. Number 5. The resale market started telling the truth. A thriving resale market sounds like good news for owners, and in one narrow sense it is. What it really did was end an illusion. For decades, nobody knew what a designer item was actually worth after purchase. There was no price discovery, no public record, no comparable sales. You paid retail, you carried the item, and resale value stayed comfortably theoretical. Authenticated platforms destroyed that comfort. Now anyone can look up in 11 seconds exactly what their $4,000 purchase from 3 years ago sells for today. For a small number of pieces, the answer is encouraging. For the vast majority, it is a number the owner does not want to see. Picture someone who accumulated 11 designer handbags over a decade, spending a little over $26,000. When she decided to sell 9 of them, the offers came back totaling under $9,000 before fees. 2 had held their value beautifully. The other 7 had quietly lost most of theirs while sitting in a closet, insured and barely used. She had not been careless. The pieces simply were not the kind that hold, and there was no way to know that at the register, because nobody at the register has any incentive to tell you. Transparency is what killed the aspirational luxury market. Once buyers could see the depreciation curve, the purchase stopped feeling like an investment and started feeling like what it always was, which is consumption. Number 6. The financing underneath it all stopped hiding. Here is where this stops being a story about rich people and starts being a story about your budget. The average rate on American credit cards accruing interest has climbed above 22%, close to the highest borrowing cost consumers have faced in 4 decades. Run one purchase through that rate. A $5,000 bag charged to a card, paid down at a disciplined $150 a month, takes 53 months to clear and costs roughly $2,800 in interest. Nearly $8,000 for a $5,000 item, assuming you never miss a payment. Now run it at the 2% minimum the statement actually suggests. The balance takes over 80 years to clear and generates more than $47,000 in interest. That is not a typo. Minimum payments are designed to keep you paying, and a luxury purchase financed that way outlives the item, the trend, and possibly the buyer. Then there is the newer trap. Nearly half of buy now, pay later users have paid late in the past year, and more are carrying 3 or more plans at once. Split payments feel like a discount. They are not. 4 payments of $250 is $1,000. The format works because it detaches the purchase from the price. Your brain evaluates the installment. Your bank account absorbs the total. Consider someone with 4 active plans running at once. None of them large, all for clothing. Individually, each looked harmless. Together, they consumed $480 a month, more than his car payment, for items he had already worn. That $400 a month is where the whole story turns. Take that amount, the sum an average designer habit quietly consumes, and route it into a low-cost index fund instead. At an 8% average return, it becomes roughly $73,000 after 10 years. Leave it 20 years, and it reaches about $235,000. 30 years takes it near $600,000. Nobody sees that account. Nobody compliments it. It will never sit on a restaurant table where someone can admire it, and it is the difference between working because you choose to at 60 and working because you have to. So here are the 4 questions the wealthy started asking, and they cost nothing to copy. Question 1. What is the cost per wear? Divide the price by the realistic number of times it gets used. A $1,200 coat, worn 200 times, costs $6 per wear. A $300 bag carried 4 times costs $75. The expensive item is frequently the cheaper one, and the sticker price hides that completely. Question 2. What does this sell for in 3 years? Look it up before buying, not after. 11 seconds on any resale platform tells you whether you are buying an asset, a durable good, or a rapidly depreciating one. All 3 can be reasonable purchases. Confusing them is what causes the damage. Question 3. Would I still want this if nobody ever saw me with it? Wanting to be perceived a certain way is human, and there is no shame in it. But a purchase driven entirely by that motive delivers a return that fades in about 2 weeks, which is how long it takes for a new possession to become invisible to everyone around you. And question 4, the one I promised you at the start. What am I not buying by buying this? Every dollar has an alternative use. $400 a month is a designer habit, or it is retirement contributions, or it is the emergency fund that keeps a job loss from becoming a credit card balance. The money always goes somewhere. The only real question is whether you chose the destination. That is the mechanism underneath everything you have been watching. Wealthy Americans did not develop better taste. They ran the arithmetic on status, found the return was negative, and had enough financial literacy to act on what they found. The bag that cost $2,800 in 2010 and $11,700 today did not become 4 times better. It became 4 times more expensive, and somebody eventually noticed that the person profiting from that change was never the person carrying it. You are allowed to buy beautiful things. Buy the coat you will wear for 15 years. Buy the piece that carries actual meaning for you. What is worth abandoning is the version of spending where the audience decides, because that audience is not paying your bills, is not funding your retirement, and stopped looking a long time ago. Tell me in the comments about something expensive you later regretted, and what finally made you see it clearly. Somebody reading is standing in a store right now with their card out, trying to decide,